I ain't got my music. Bring me my backpack. No, after you eat. Bring me my backpack. In the room, baby. In the room.
It's so heavy. How does things get in here?
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, mommy.
This kid.
I'm gonna make a piece of you.
Close the door, babe.
Okay.
Really, Micah? Have kids, they said. It would be fun, they said. I forgot to turn on my little theme music. You know? Oh, Lord. Uh-oh. I got a lot going on. Hi. Hi, Mommy. Let me share this to Facebook. Hi. Hi, Mommy. Let me share this to Facebook. Hi. Hi, Mommy. Let me share this to Facebook. Ooh, nothing to it. How y'all doing? Good evening, good evening, good evening. Happy Monday. It is 11:11. All right. That is a blessing, to say the least. That is a blessing. Those numbers have been showing up repeatedly for months now for me. And I believe all that it entails. So yeah. Happy Monday. It's a Life Be Lifin Monday. Hey Gregory, how are you, love? Good to see you. Thank you so much for joining. Thank y'all. Let me share out this live, child. Uh-oh. I done pressed the wrong button. Share out the live. Share out the live for our Life Be Lifin Monday. I'm back after so long. Taking this time off to recuperate and do all the things that I've been doing, okay? But it was necessary. Uh-oh, there go the pizza. It was necessary to take the time off, but I am back because season 3 of Life Be Lifin podcast premieres tonight. If you're already following us on any other platform that you get your podcast on, the audio has been out since this morning, but the visual comes out at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time tonight, okay? So you get to see me talk about, in this first episode of this season, year 3 of me, okay? And it pretty much is a recap and an update to where I am at and what's going on in my life and what basically what I've learned this last year, essentially. So it is really good, and it's like the precursor for the rest of this season of season 3. Hey Darren, how are you, love? Yeah, this is the precursor for the rest of season 3 as to what I will be essentially talking about and like hyper focusing on. And I'm super excited to share it with you guys, okay? So I tonight is my first night back doing my 1 hour talks with the boxes open. If you guys want to come in and talk with me, you are more than welcome to do so. And I was looking through my episodes from season 2, what I recapped earlier this year, essentially on here on the lives, and I didn't want to start over at the beginning of the season of season 2. So I am going to start at I don't think I recapped this episode, which was From the Mouths of Babes, talking about growing up without a father in the home. Okay, so that episode, I did have my little cousin featured on it, and we pretty much talked about our experience with that and what that looked like for us. And yeah, anybody else, don't put our breakup on the new season. Shut up, Darren. Not the breakup. So if you have similar experiences, or if you are a parent that was not in the home with your child as they grew up, or if you, like I said, have experienced that firsthand with a mother or father not being in home, we can talk about it. Okay, we can talk about it and share our experience and what that looked like and where you are now in life due to that experience, right? So I think it's all important, and yeah, I'm excited to just talk about it. For those who don't know, hey Theo, thank you for joining. Thank you for tapping the screen, Darren. Appreciate you. For those who don't know, I grew up in a single mother, single parent household. Hey, how are you? And my mom did her big one, like taking care of me and my brother, making sure that we had everything that we needed, that we didn't lack for anything, and so on and so on, right? But it is something to be said about having a two-parent household. And even me personally, I didn't experience that, but I know people that did, and it wasn't all what it was cracked up to be, right? Just because you have two parents in the household, thank you, Darren, appreciate you. Just because you have two parents in the household does not mean that it will be a healthy or successful. Leah, Micah, open the door. Sorry. A healthy or successful or a good environment, right? Essentially. So that's a whole nother thing. I know, like I said, I know people that grew up with their mom and dad in the house, and it was a terrible experience. So we can't just say, oh, because you got a mom and a dad in the house, you had a great time. No, not necessarily. It could have been more traumatic for them because they had two people in there not giving their time, their energy, their whatever towards them as they should have, right? So I became very cognizant of that when I was younger, and I had family members that had a mom and dad in the house, and it was just very, very traumatic for them. But again, it still is something to be said from the other side of that scope, that you had that missing parent not there. And I think we all desire what we don't have, right? If I had both of them, maybe it would have been a different story. But me not having both of them made me desire that relationship, that connection, that need of that parent more and more. Now, my dad was in my life, okay? He was a part of my life. He's been in my life since before I was born. But again, like I said, it just wasn't giving, the relationship wasn't giving what I wanted out of it fully. Hey, mommy. And it required a lot on his part. And I believe that if my mom and dad would have chose to work it out or whatever, I would love to see what that would have looked like. Hey, Blossom Baby. How are you, sis? Thank you for joining. We're recapping season 2, I believe episode 10. Talking with me and my cousin about From the Mouths of Babes, talking about growing up in a household with predominantly single mothers without our fathers really being there, essentially. So yeah, and it could be, your story could be that you had your dad there and did not have your mom there, right? So whatever the story is, or you are a parent that wasn't able to be there for your child the way that your child may have needed you to be, right? And and me and my cousin, our fathers in that episode are brothers. And like we talked through in that episode, it wasn't a bashing session like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you weren't there for me. It wasn't about that. It was just like showing like where we were at that time growing up, how it made us feel, what we thought of it, to the point of where we are today. Both of us are on healing journeys with our fathers and have better relationships than we had in the past. And we're grateful for that. You know what I'm saying? It could have went another way. I know it's a lot of people out there that don't even have the chance or opportunity to have reconciliation with their parent. And so, you know, like I said or stated in this episode, that I was able to lay it all at my dad's feet and let him know how I felt and what I wanted and desired and how we can move forward. And the more and more I talked to my dad, the more I realized how human he was, if that makes sense. I think that a lot of times that we fantasize, we live in this fantasy of what we want things to do, or live in this expectation type world of what we want these relationships to look like. And I definitely was the type to be like, oh my gosh, I want to be daddy's little girl. Like, I want him to dote over me. I want all of that all the time, right? And the reality is that my dad had a lot of adult teen things going on that as a child you don't realize or even pay attention to, because that's not your job as a kid, right? Unfortunately, some of us have been thrust into our parents' day-to-day mental health or situations or whatever, but some of us are oblivious to it because our parents never showed that to us or whatever. But looking back on it, I can see like, oh my gosh, my dad was like suffering to an extent. You know what I'm saying? Says your gifts goals is not available. Really? Child, I ain't did no gift goal in so long, Theo. I don't know. Let me see. But yeah, so it's just very okay. Maybe I hope that works. Thank you so much for wanting to. Thank you, Theo. Appreciate you. But yeah, I, as an adult, and hearing my dad tell his side of the story and from his point of view and all of that, I felt extreme sadness and like, I want to give him grace. I want to give him gold from... Shut up, Darren. Darren's messing the gold from 3 years ago. Pretty much. Anyway. But I wanted to give him grace, and I felt sadness for him, and I understood, because it's a two-part of that. Like, I felt sad and I understood and wanted to give grace because I too am experiencing adulting. I too have experienced some life at this point. I'm 36 years old. I've experienced some life to the point that like, oh, I see why. I understand why. You know what I'm saying? Thank you. Thank you so much, Darren. Mark Mad Davis, what it do? How you doing, love? Thank you so much for joining. We're talking about absent parents in the home, essentially. The boxes are open if you guys would like to talk. You are more than welcome to join, share your spiel. your experience from a parent point of view and or a child's point of view of what you experienced and how it made you feel. And again, like I said, me and my cousin did talk about like, because I did pull up the statistics of growing up in a single parent household, predominantly ran by a mother opposed to a father, or a father not being present in a kid's life, or growing up in a household with them. And a lot of the things on that list I did check off, and some of the things on the list I didn't. You know what I'm saying? So it's a two-edged sword. You know, everything doesn't apply to everybody, but some things do. And I don't think nobody's story is if they had an absentee parent that, oh, everything was great at all times, or it wasn't missed by that parent not being present. I'm good now after I saw you, beautiful. Thank you so much, Mark Man Davis. Appreciate you. I don't think anybody's story is that at all. But it is good for us to reflect and see that, you know, with those connections being missed, with those desires or expectations that we put on those relationships not being fulfilled, as a child, that we kind of circle back around as an adult, like, oh, maybe this what was happening, maybe that was what was happening, opposed to us just being so harsh and like, oh, thank you, Blossom, baby, appreciate you, love, instead of us just being like, whatever, F him, F her, they didn't show up for me, it's no excuse, I didn't ask to be here. Yes, all of that is very much so true. I've also said all of those things. I want to be very clear, okay? I didn't know my father growing up except for a few phone calls and unfulfilled promises. Listen. Yeah. And it's like, what do you do with that? What do you do with that? And Theo, I know what I know of you. You have shown up as a father, not just for your children, but the children you also agreed to raise. And that's amazing. Like, I always tell this story of a friend of mine. Thank you so much, Blossom Baby. I always tell this story of a friend that I knew, and her mom, when she was growing up, was addicted to a certain substance back in the 80s, 90s, okay? And she used to be like, you know, her mom got clean in her later years, but her and her sibling grew up with their grandparents, essentially, and they always desired a relationship with their mom, even though their mom couldn't show up the way that she needed to. But my friend was younger than me at the time, and we used to talk about it, and she like, I could have chose one or two things. I could have chose to go the way that my mom went, be addicted to something, be strung out, whatever, right? And or I could have chose what I have chose, which is to go to school, get a job, be successful, do all those things. Just because a parent or whomever shows up a certain way doesn't mean that you're destined to follow that path. It's really up to you to follow the path that you want to follow. Yes, will it be harder because you do have a history of this in your family or in your bloodline? Absolutely. But is it impossible? No, it's not. And I always carried that because I'm like, man, I could choose to not show up for my kids, but you know, in America specifically, it's much harder to do that as a woman, right? We're not given as much freedom or leadway to not be present with our children as a father may be. Theo said, when I got to meet him, I was too young and too in my feelings to express them. Listen, I can only imagine. Hey, Ja, how are you, love? Thank you for joining. Darren said, I'm tired of being a parent. LOL, vacation me. Listen, okay? Period. I totally understand. Did you eat all your food? Yes. Um, so yeah, I mean, I totally understand, and it do be a lot. And Theo, to what you said, it took me a long time to gather my words in courage to say to my dad how I really felt. Because I still, even being an adult, had this ideal of being daddy's little girl. I still didn't want to disappoint him. I still didn't want to possibly tarnish the relationship just because I was honest about my feelings that I felt, you know? Josh said, I'm good. Good to see you. You too, Josh. Thank you so much for joining. It was really difficult for me. And I talked to my mom about it for years, like all throughout growing up, how I felt, you know, whatever. So all those feelings were still there. And when I gathered the courage enough to like stand in who I am and how I felt, and when I finally told him, he was in a position, because I did try one time when I was 16 to tell him how I felt, what was going on with me, whatever. And he got very defensive. And then that blew up, and that was never to be spoken of again. You know what I'm saying? But now this time, he was in a much more receptive place in his life to even hear what I had to say. And what I thought to be very good to hear from him was that I'm just going to sit here and listen to all that you felt I did wrong and whatever. And he took it. You know, he took it. He took accountability. He didn't know that how he was showing up and how things were affecting me, that I was receiving it that way. He didn't know that. And had I not spoken up and said something, he would have been still living in his fantasy of, I've been a great dad. I've been in her life. I get her Christmas presents. I see her every weekend. Like, I've been an amazing father. Like, what are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? But also because of the disconnect in our relationship, and because of the disconnect in other relationships for him, he saw, especially with women, how he was showing up. But that comes with a level of self-awareness, self-reflection. It's a lot of trash parents out here that be over here living in la la land like, I'm the best mama ever, I'm the best daddy ever, and don't be no further than the truth. But because you have built up this image in your head and in your mind that, well, I've done this, I've done that, like, it must be enough. It is enough. And what he did tell me is that it wasn't enough. He realized now that it wasn't enough. But again, it wasn't totally a fault to him. And I'm not trying to take away, you know, some of the load for him to carry, but it wasn't all at fault to him. It was more so like the teachings of manhood, the church, our culture, all this type of stuff plays a part and a role in it. Would I have wished to have, and would I wish for my daughters to even have a father that could be that type of man, like, no matter what, I'm going to show up for my kids? Absolutely. I think that goes without saying, because I'm that type of mama. I show up for my kids irregardless. So I would expect or desire for them to have that same experience. Like, that's necessary. And I'm sure that pressure was put up on my mom. Like, it was no question in our society, in our culture, for her to show up for us. It's no question. I've never expressed how I felt to my biological parents. Woo. And that may be something you need to do. Maybe. It may be freeing. It may not be. Because again, if they're not in that space to receive, then that may be a difficult conversation and you may walk away like, I shouldn't have said nothing. Because they don't care, they don't feel like, you don't know. But also you don't know until you ask, until you have the conversations. You don't know. We can speculate all day which way it will go, which way it won't go, like we don't know. And like my cousin said on that podcast episode, when his father reached out to him, you know, he was in college, and his father reached out to him and said he wanted to talk to him and explain to him, like, why their relationship was the way that it was. He was not interested. He wasn't interested until his girlfriend persuaded him, like, what is it going to hurt you? What is it going to hurt you to have that conversation? What is it going to hurt you to have that moment with him? What? At least you can express how you feel and get it all out. Like, you know, and if nothing comes from it after that, I mean, at least you did that much. But when he did do it, my uncle was very remorseful. And he pretty much laid out to him, you know, my uncle's situation, and we talked about this on the podcast, was he was a kid. He was a whole kid having kids, you know? And so, and at that time, he was getting in trouble in the city of Chicago, running the streets, doing the things that kids do. Yes, doing the things that kids do. And my grandparents was like, we moving down south. My grandparents were from the South. And they said they were moving back to the South. And he was a kid. He had no control over, I want to stay. No, you're going to leave because you up here getting in trouble. It's time for you to go. We got to go. We moving around. And that's what they did. And that meant that he had to leave his children behind. Not like my grandparents was like, F them kids. That wasn't the case, because my grandparents did the best that they could do. They visited all the grandkids. They used to get all of us every weekend. But it was just like, you know, in order to keep you safe, we got to move. And I'm sure if my grandparents could have had their way, they would have moved the grandbabies with them, but they couldn't because they had mothers that stayed in the city. You know what I'm saying? So it was what it was. But does that absolve him of all of his wrongdoing? Absolutely not. Because you let years pass before that and after that before you could even, like, for you to build a relationship and, like, set that foundation. But again, it's like that grace. Ooh, that grace kicks in. Like, that, he was a child. He didn't know no better. He didn't know that he's supposed to do all of that. But, you know, I'm sure the moms didn't know that either. But that's where the societal differences come in. And, like, the expectations that are put on women or girls opposed to boys and men. Like, it don't matter. You got pregnant. It's your baby. You gonna take care of it. That's how black mothers raise their daughters that got pregnant at young ages. It is what it is. I'll help you to the best of my ability, but that's your baby. It's your responsibility, and you gotta do what you gotta do. The fathers, on the other hand, they don't get that same pressure. They don't. And they haven't. And we can have bashing sessions every Father's Day y'all want to. But it's our responsibility as a people to hold each other to the standards. It's our responsibility as a community. It shouldn't just be left up on one party or another. It shouldn't matter. If y'all both made this child, it's both y'all responsibility to show up for this child. And not just in a monetary way. It's in all ways. In raising, actually being present, teaching, disciplining, having fun, all of it. But, you know, this is the world we live in. And so we have all of this brokenness around us, and we don't seem to understand the roots of it. What do you mean you don't understand? Hi, James. How are you? Glad to see you, friend. My bestie's in the building. But yeah, so it's just very interesting. And like I was saying, me and my cousin, and I'm sure plenty of us out here that have similar storylines, could have went many a different ways. But we have been successful in our efforts. We have not, had really damaging, life-altering things happen to us because we didn't have our fathers in the home with us. And again, we also have been granted the blessing of reconciliation and being able to work on those relationships actively. And it still ain't no walk in the park. Even though my dad let me lay everything at his feet and, we talked about everything and said how we were going to move forward because that's all we can do is move forward. It still takes a lot of effort on both parties to make the relationship work. Just like any relationship. We talk about this all the time here. When you have kids, having kids, it makes the situation so much more unstable. Exactly, Theo. Exactly. But that makes you be like, oh my gosh, that's why I'm saying when you get, as a kid, you don't understand it. I just don't understand. My mama here, especially when you have a parent there, my mama here. I've seen her struggle. I've seen her work multiple jobs. I've seen her take care of multiple children. And she don't make excuses for her not being or being here. So it's hard to accept that excuse as a kid. Because it's like, my mama doing it? Why you can't do it? And then that's where our superhero, mentality is built up about our moms. Like, she can do no wrong because she sacrificed so much for me. Which is true. She did sacrifice a lot for you. And your daddy was out there living their life. I don't know. It's just a very special place to be in. I don't know how else to say it. But you don't understand it as a kid. You only understand what you see, which is very important. And another good thing about my mom, even though she was doing what she was doing and all of that, she never once badmouthed my dad to me or anything like that. Never. Now, I may hear her saying stuff to other people or him, but she never made room for me to be like, oh, you can disrespect your dad. No. Irregardless of my feelings, you can vent, you can say how you feel, but you're not going to be disrespectful to your father. And I appreciate that, because that's nothing to do to a kid. Because she may have known some things that I did not know as a child, right? And I don't do the same thing with my kids, irregardless of us going through what we going through and whatever. I don't badmouth him to them. That's none of their business about how I truly feel about him until they're older. We can talk about it. When they grown, when they good and grown, or when they realize whatever, we can talk about it. But other than that, I have nothing bad to say. I have nothing bad to say. Which is in itself is a struggle. I ain't gonna hold you. We're human. We're human. But yeah, these relationships are always interesting. And like I said, I know people that have grown up with 2-parent households, and it wasn't the best situation. And it still was, toxic or hard. It was a struggle. You felt unwanted. Still didn't have the relationship you desired. Didn't have the connection that you may have wanted. Still. So, again, we can live in fantasy and be like, I wonder what it would have been like to have this person in my household. We can be grateful for the experience, that the way that it played out, the way that it was, you know. Um, my kid. So yeah. We could talk more about it. Again, we are recapping season 2, episode 10, titled From the Mouths of Babes. And it's an episode of me and my first cousin talking about growing up in our household without our father's presence. Theo said, also, mom may not know how to or think it important to have a conversation about dad. Absolutely. What are you doing? Bruh. I done made me a little charcuterie board. Okay, Leah. I done made me a little charcuterie board to celebrate season 3, episode 1 premiering tonight. Got me a little glass of wine to celebrate me. It took a lot to get this season going. And yeah, it's been a journey, to say the least. But back to Theo's comment. Also, mom may not know how to or think it's important to have a conversation about that. Absolutely. Because, again, since I'm experiencing it now, man, I can only imagine. Like I said, I'm human. I have moments. I want to be like, when they be like, oh my gosh, he's the best thing ever. No, that's what I want to say. But also, I'm not going to do that. Okay? I'm not going to do that. But I can only imagine, like, not wanting to have that conversation or feel that it's important to have that conversation because they're not pulling their weight the way that you think that they should, right? So it's like, we just gonna, and I guess also that's kind of like living in a fantasy too. Like, we just gonna act like it's not happening. Like, is that being delusional? I don't know. But like, we just gonna act like the person don't exist. It's not happening. They're not missed. That their presence is not here. Like, we just gonna act like it's all good. Thank you so much, Blossom Baby. And that's like an easy pill to swallow sometimes. And I have this conversation with my therapist often. Well, not often, but every so often. I tell her like how I really feel about it. But I do compartmentalize it, you know, and put it in this little box over here and be like, you know, out of sight, out of mind. If it ain't, you know, I could sit there and dwell in it and be like, oh my gosh, they're missing this, they're missing that. He's missing this, he's missing that. Like, he don't understand. Or, like, I've done that. I don't have much more room to just sit in that space and get myself all riled up, especially with my situation. Like, I didn't sign up to be a single parent. I got in a marriage and decided to dedicate my life to someone, and we were supposed to have a family together and raise these babies together. Well, that's not how the story ends, okay? And so here we are. So it's definitely even more difficult for me. I can only imagine other people's stories. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's very frustrating. So it's like, how do you have that conversation with your kids? And for me, it's another level of disappointment for them. Like, I couldn't make this work for y'all. I couldn't make this work. It was out of my control to really do this thing for y'all. Even though that's not even the truth. That's not the truth. But that's how I feel. That's how the situation makes me feel. So if I can act like your presence isn't missed or your presence isn't important, I'm going to push it over here, put it in that box, and leave it over there. And that's not the healthiest of coping skills, right? That's not how we should do this. Oh, thank you, Blossom Baby. That's not how we should handle things, right? Because that's not helping me. That's not helping them, you know. But when their emotions and their feelings do come up about the situation, about the lack of that connection, I allow them space to emote. I allow them space to say how they feel. I ask them additional questions to get to the root of it. Like, I give them their moment and I let them spill it all out. And it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. And what parent wants to see their child broken by a decision made by, thank you, Blossom Baby, by the other parent? Who wants that? So, and some moms, especially in our culture, have taken on, like, why they feel it's not important. Because, look, I do everything for you. F that nigga. Don't keep saying thank you. You know I am. But, like, a lot of us in our culture be like, F him. Like, who cares? I do everything anyway. I take care of you. I provide for you. I. So what we talking about him for? He ain't show up. He don't want to be here. Oh, well. You know what I'm saying? I'm letting Savannah pick the gifts. Okay, Savannah Banana. Thank you, baby. So, it's really twofold. It's a lot to it. But this is the world we live in, and I think it important. Oh, I got a dolphin. I think it important for us to when you do have the understanding, especially as adults, right? To give yourself grace. If you were a parent and are a parent that hasn't been extremely active in your child's life, especially as you weren't able to have that relationship with them to be a part of their family in the home, like, if they're still here, do your best to have a relationship with them if you can. Like, just do your best. Thank you. Do your best to have a relationship with them. Build up a relationship with them. Have conversations with them. Allow them to be open and honest with you so that you guys can build from there. It's nothing that any of us can do to change the past. Nothing. None of us can change the past. But what we do have control over is our current, our present, and potentially the future. If we do put in that work now, and that's what matters. So I would encourage any parent that does have a strained relationship with a child or whatever, just be really open and honest with them. Hey, Mr. Reese, how are you, my love? Be open and honest with them. Let them know where you were, what happened, why it happened. You didn't know, like, I didn't look at it from that point of view that my actions, my decisions were going to, or you were receiving them this way. They were hurting you this way. They were making you feel less than or whatever. Let them know. Give them space to vent. It's not diminishing who you are or anything like that. It's just allowing feelings to be felt. And that's really the root of it. I think all of us just wants to be heard. All of us just wants to be desired. All of us wants connection. And if we still have the time to make it happen, make it happen. People are leaving this earth every day. Every second somebody is leaving here. And so let's just do our best to hear from our babies. Because even though they may be grown now, they may think they know everything, they're still your babies. Give them space. Give that adult child space that you didn't give that child when they were a kid. Give them space. Thank you, Blossom. Give them space to show up and to express themselves. And you're going to have to sit there and take accountability for how you showed up for them. Even if it wasn't your intention, and you can explain yourself and you can give your reasoning and tell them, whatever, but give them space. And that's the first building block or the stepping stone to build on your relationship moving forward. And children that have had parents that were not in the household or not present for them in relationship, give your parent grace. I know it is way easier said than done. Trust me, I understand. Because even with the knowledge of, oh, this is all that you were going through, blah, 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 it still hurts. That pain don't go away with just one conversation. That pain don't go away with just a little understanding. It don't go away. That takes time. And change behavior is a big one. That can take you real far. Thank you, Theo. Thank you, James. Thank you, Blossom Baby. Change behavior. Thank you, Mr. Reese. I appreciate you. Can take you a long way. It can take a long way. So even though I'm still hurting, I still feel sad for little Portia. I see that you are willing to change. I see that you are changing and that you really are showing up for me. And I appreciate that. I receive that. It makes me feel seen. It makes me feel loved. It's filling up that little emptiness I felt as a kid. It's never too late until it's too late. So we need to do our parts. Show up for our children. We need to do our parts. Show up for our parents. And if you feel like it's a space that you want to heal in, do it. Do it. Do it. And even if it don't yield the response or what you may ultimately want from it, at least you got it off your chest. At least you shared your piece. You may gain some understanding of them and be like, oh my gosh, like I never knew. And now you do. Because life be lifing us all, for real. Like Blossom said, I'll think about it. Blossom. Psych. But no, like, it's really something, and all relationships are something, but them parent to child relationships, child, listen, it be a whole thing. I still struggle with my mom and my dad. Like, it is a journey. It's a journey. Journeys don't happen overnight. It takes time. Intentional, purposeful time and understanding. I didn't understand the sacrifice until I had my own kids. That's what I said earlier, Darren. You don't understand until you actually in the situations yourself. You be like, if I can only imagine all that I have endured in my 36 years, in my last 8 years of being a parent, all that I have endured, all that I have thought, all that I have felt, I can only imagine what my mom and dad, I can only imagine. So that's why I'm saying we can give grace because we know how hard it is for us, for those who are parents. We know. Raising, training, teaching, taking care of another human being is a whole lot of sacrifice and a whole lot of... It's very rewarding. It is. It's such a precious time. But also, because life be lifing, it can be very difficult. It can be very heavy. It can feel like it's a hard task. Like, when is this ever gonna be done? I remember when I first had my baby, and I was like, that newborn stage was kicking my ass. And I was personally sick too. Like, that stage was kicking my tail. But you get in the groove of it eventually. And what you think is like gonna last forever, the sleepless nights, the hard times, all of that, like, it's gone. I'm 8 years in now. That baby is 8 years old. Like, make that make sense. Why are those actors' masks still on your name? Ooh. They not on Blossom name. They on Theo name. Mommy. My issue is just finding time for myself. Exactly, Darren. Yeah, that's Theo, mommy. Exactly, Darren. Which, again, imagine how our parents felt when they have multiple children. You can't find time for yourself. And thank God we're in a world now, in a society now, that gives us a little more understanding of what that looks like. You being overstimulated from having kids touch you 24/7. Like, you just needed a moment to yourself. Or even it being acceptable now to be like, oh, you can take time to yourself. You can take a vacation. You can take, like, and that still is hard for some people, because some people still like, what you mean? When I was growing up, we ain't had no time. We ain't do none of that. I had my kids all the time. Well, you had no choice but to have your kids all the time. God said that I could take rest. God said, I'm going to set you up with a village that when you need a break, sis, I'm going to help you get a break. When you need a break, bro, I'm going to help you get a break. Okay? Got 4 playing football and 2 cheerleaders. Lord Jesus. I hope they all on the same team. I don't know. That's a lot. That's a lot. Okay? Oh, no. Dang. That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, no. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you gotta imagine not ever having time for yourself. That would make you very agitated, very annoyed, very angry, and you can take it out on them kids that you supposed to be raising, training, and teaching how to be an amazing human being. But because you're frustrated and you're not able to refill yourself, now you're taking it out on them, and you're showing them that this is what you do when you get frustrated, annoyed, and like, this what you, no, that's not what we're supposed to be doing. And I'm guilty of that. When I get very overwhelmed, I have moments that I like spaz out and I be like, everybody shut up. Nobody do nothing. But mommy nothing. My name ain't even mommy right now. Leave me alone. I don't want no requests. I don't want no questions. I don't want nothing. You know, it gets to that point sometimes. Is it right? No, it is not. Because why can't I, as an adult especially, why do I not tap into my regulating my emotion skills? Regulate your damn self. Don't be taking it out on them kids because you chose to overfill your schedule. That's not the baby's fault. Blossom says somebody will be missing practice and games. Exactly, okay? Like, what we talking about? You can still take time for yourself even with kids if you're willing to. Exactly, Mr. Reese. You can. You can, but it's up to you. Or taking it out on moms. Mom, please. Taking it out on whomever, okay? Y'all all be wearing me out. Completely. She the biggest kid in here. That's the problem. Anyway, but yeah, it is a journey. But I think that we have to be willing to do the work to make the relationships work, right? Whatever it is that your kids need, whatever it is that the parent needs, I think they can both be fulfilled with the help of each other. Like, we have to be willing to meet each other where we are. And again, just because you are here and they may be here, irregardless of positioning, right? The parent is here, you're here, irregardless of all of that. If you have the skills to regulate yourself, if you have the wherewithal to see past, yeah, you hurt me, it made me feel like this as a kid, but I'm going to still give you grace. Allow them to show you change behavior and to show up differently for you this go round. And if they don't, you don't have to subject yourself to be in a relationship. I am an advocate, irregardless of title of relationship, that you do not have to engage in that relationship. I know my black card may be revoked, because especially in our culture, we like, I don't care. You only get one mama. I don't care what your mama did to you. I don't care if she abused you. I don't care if she mistreated you. I don't care. You respect your mama. You still, and respecting to them means you still engage in the abusive relationship. I'm an advocate for otherwise. You should not be in any abusive relationship. I don't care what their title is in your life. Nobody should be subjected to abuse just because somebody holds a title. Period. Yes, they are my mother. Yes, they birthed me. Yes, they are my father. Yes, they birthed me. But also, that does not give you a right or a pass to be mistreating me my entire life. Period. That does not give you a free pass to do what you will with me. Especially when I'm not a child no more. I'm a whole adult with children. So I would never, ever advocate for that. And I know our culture got that bad. Like, no, this is what it is. And I read something or I saw something recently about respect. And respect is definitely to each his own. What I may consider to be respectful or disrespectful may be different for you. And that's okay. Like, whatever. But sometimes, especially what I have experienced with older generations, what they place in a box of this is what respect looks like for me is not even respect or disrespect. My sister said, shut alive to mine. Mommy said, maybe for some. Yeah. Like, and I'm like, you talking about some this disrespect? How is that disrespect? Because my great grandmother, she ain't let us do that, so it's that. What? Like, y'all don't even know why y'all have these boundaries or why you're taking something disrespectfully or respectfully. You don't like, because somebody pandering to you, that's respect. But because somebody is not pandering to, you're being disrespectful. How, Sway? I'm telling you how I feel. I'm telling you my point of view, and you taking it as disrespect. That sounds like a personal problem. I don't know. But I think that we need to, at all times, self-evaluate. And we need to not just continue carrying on these generational feelings and sayings and things just because that worked for Mima. Don't mean, like, Mima was raised on a plantation. Like, what are we talking about? Y'all got to remember the origin of these things. Theo said, just because I respect you doesn't mean I'm taking anything from you. That part, Theo. Hello? Thank you, Mr. Reese, for the shares. That part. But because I do take the things, oh, they're respectful. That makes no sense. But again, like I said, we got to think about the root of these things. Because that's what Massa taught us to believe way back then. And we just passing it down generation to generation to generation to generation. And here we are with a generation of people saying enough is enough. No. We need to heal. We need to be better. We need not to just take, we need to just show up differently. That will be in the best interest for all parties involved in the relationship. Not just for one. I respectfully disagree with how you handle things and you treat people. Exactly. Respectfully. So, it is what it is. But yeah, so that's a whole thing in itself. But, hey, 'tis is life, because life be life in us all. We be out here doing all the things, but we have to have enough respect for ourselves, to show up for ourselves. And that, like Theo said, that can be done in a respectful way. It doesn't have to be done out of disrespect. But also I think it's important that we continue to work on regulating our emotions and our feelings and dealing with ourselves daily. Checking in with yourself. Did I make the right decision? Did I mess up? Apologizing, taking accountability. Because we're going to mess up. We're human. We're not going to always make the right decisions. Even with the book knowledge, even with the street smarts, even with whatever, the wisdom, you're not always going to make the right decisions. Because life be life in us all. Now get out my face, be the disrespect come before the disrespect comes. Get out my face before the disrespect comes. Yeah, no. And I'm not even like a disrespectful person. Okay, I only got a minute left, so I can't go into that. But anyway, but I can be, because we all can be, right? Anyway, I appreciate y'all for checking me out tonight. I am going live on YouTube right now, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time for Season 3, Episode 1 is premiering. So let's leave here and go over to YouTube. If you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please click the link in the bio. Take you right there to the page, okay? It's at Life Be Lifin Podcast. I will see you there to live chat with you all while I eat my charcuterie board and drink my wine. And cheers myself for making it 3 years, 3 seasons into this podcast. I love you all. Thank you so much. And yeah, I'll see y'all over there. Remember, life be life in us all. Bye.